My life, although I was loved and cared for, was steeped in chaos from an early age. My mom was a wonderful mom, and my dad loved me dearly, but they didn't seem good for each other, and it didn't seem like they truly loved each other either. Like so many families without Jesus Christ, ours was broken long before my parents divorced and my dad moved away to Pennsylvania. Alcoholism ran in my family on my dad's side, and it was passed down to him from his father, and it destroyed everything. It destroyed our entire family. I witnessed more than my fair share of alcohol and spousal abuse when I was a little girl, even though I really barely remember any of it, but I remember enough of it that I was a little traumatized by it. After my parents separated, I left home and was left to fend for myself, having to protect myself against toxic, ungodly men became my everyday. It was all that I knew or understood, and anything less was a weakness. First, I grew into being needed to be loved by a man to feel worthy of anything, to later adapting to a feminist lifestyle after years of abuse and humiliation. I learned to despise most men and was unable to trust them. I didn't want anything to do with them. Admittedly, I still had trust issues with men in general, with people in general, up until about a year ago. Regardless of being married to a wonderful man who loves and takes care of me. But trusting in God and loving Him, not my husband, has made a world of difference. And I know that had my parents loved and had Christ in their life, that their marriage might have been saved. But that's not what happened. And because I grew up in an ungodly environment, an unchristian personality grew around me like a tree around an abandoned bicycle. One of the ungodly, unchristian traits that I inherited was an angry, defensive personality. And another was a sharp, harsh, vulgar tongue. You put those together and you have a woman that is like so many women today. Fiercely independent feminists who take nothing from no one, who are combative, offensively loud, and use vulgar language on a daily basis. All traits that humans, especially women, were not created to bear. Here is a Bible verse. In the same way, the women are to be worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperate and trustworthy in everything. 1 Timothy 3:11. But all that began to change for me in 2015 when I met my husband. He was more soft-spoken than I was. He was calmer and even more respectful than me. He did not like swear words and vulgar language. And honestly, that was as much a part of me as was the English language. Every other word that would come out of my mouth, or at least every sentence, would have a curse word in it, especially the F word. Now, of course, this is not to say that my husband was a weak or feminine man. Not at all. It just meant that I was so strong a woman, too strong of a woman, and as far removed from my femininity as Christians are from atheism. There was nothing feminine about me. And that was most evident in how I spoke, how I carried myself, and how I reacted to my circumstances. But out of respect for my husband, I stopped using curse words. I started speaking in a softer tone, and over time, my heart also began to soften. It wasn't until sometime in 2022 that I began to realize how much better I felt about myself, and how much calmer my life was when I reacted to situations with grace rather than hostility. Our marriage was more diplomatic, and we were able to communicate better and understand each other on a deeper level when I chose to speak calmly, without sarcasm and aggressiveness, and with love instead of anger. Here's another Bible verse. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. Something else that I started to understand was how much more like myself I was becoming, how much more like the person God intended me to be. I knew that by the grace and guidance of God, that to act, think, and feel like a traditional Christian woman was what I had always wanted, what I had always yearned for when I was a little girl. And it was always what God intended for me. I knew it always when I was a little girl, like I said, in admiration of my grandparents' marriage. I knew it as a teenager when I longed for true love like theirs, and I looked for it in all the wrong places. And I knew it as an adult when I wanted to buy a piece of land and become a homesteader wife, but was too feminist to fully pursue the desire. I am now finally who I was always meant to be, a Christian woman, mother, and wife, fully committed to Christ. I am a housewife and homemaker, fully committed to my husband and our marriage. And I am growing in my ability to do everything with grace, kindness, and joy, even in situations that would normally cause me to be quick to anger, because I have always had a very hot temper. I was so easy to set off. The smallest thing would make me mad or put me in defensive mode. And it's so freeing to not feel that way anymore. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk from your lips. Proverbs 4:23-24. Now, when my husband says something that I don't agree with, I try my best not to react the way that I did before. I no longer become argumentative. I try to listen and not interrupt with stern and stubborn opinions. I think carefully first about everything that I intend to say, to make sure that my words will be kind and understanding rather than riddled with disappointment or rejection. I make sure not to undermine him by telling him what to do, or speak with such aggression that I end up emasculating him or provoking him to anger. Because I'll be honest with you, and I will tell you that I used to do all those things. It was really terrible. Once we got used to each other and the effects of shiny new love began to wear off, of course, I became more like myself. Bossy, controlling, and easy to provoke. I wanted things done my way or no way at all. Now, granted, I was not the only one that began to show my true colors a few years into the marriage, but this isn't about the minor things in our marriage. Here's 2 more Bible verses. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. Proverbs 31:26. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Colossians 4:6. To speak with kindness and grace is such a feminine quality that it instantly makes me feel like a real woman when I put it into action. It brings such peace into all relationships, marriages, friendships, and families, and removes the heavy burdens of stress and conflict. When at least one of 2 people can react with grace and kindness in a tense situation, it becomes so much easier for the combative person to calm down and think more rationally. But if both of you are speaking aggressively to one another, and you've got to get your word in, you've got to get the last word, you've got to get your point across, and you use anger in order to do it, it never solves anything. It just escalates the problem. To speak and react with grace and kindness, no matter who you are, man or woman, is such an important quality. It's how all of us should treat others in every situation. But unfortunately for most people today, it seems like such an impossible thing to do. It's shunned and considered a weakness rather than a strength. If you don't go and fight somebody or tell them what's on your mind, then, it's a weakness. You're a weakling because you didn't stick up for yourself or somebody else. Women, like I was, have had to adapt to such ruthless environments. And we've had to do this by shedding our grace and kindness and replacing it with hostility. But that's what the enemy wants. He wants us to be angry, combative, and fiercely independent to the point of loneliness and as far removed from grace as we can possibly be. That's what he wants. And for so many people, probably for most people, he gets what he wants. He's succeeding with every one of us almost. Every day of our lives, when we feel we need to raise our voices, we need to yell at someone, we need to be combative or aggressive or hostile toward another human being. The enemy doesn't want us to know grace. He doesn't want us to show grace because grace is powerful. Kindness is prevailing. Calmness can quiet the loudest heart, and soft-spoken words can stop anger in its tracks. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Colossians 3:12. The heart of the wise makes his speech judicious and adds persuasiveness to his lips. Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. Proverbs 16:23 through 24. The Bible is so full of wisdom. There is so much. Everything in it makes sense. Everything in it. The rules for our life, the instructions for how we should live. Everything makes more sense than anything I've ever read or understood in my entire life. But so many people refuse to read it. They refuse to accept it. Even though if they stop letting the enemy control their thinking, if they just gather the courage to say to themselves, you know what, this makes sense. Everything here makes sense. You know, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I encourage you to practice grace, kindness, and compassion in your everyday. Choose not to get angry or be offended, even when it's another person's direct intention. Respond with grace, kindness, and calmness, and see what a difference it can make in your relationships, encounters with other people, in your marriage, and in yourself. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. Please like this video, share it if you know someone that needs some words of encouragement. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing because every little bit helps my channel to grow and helps me to get the word out to other people. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. May God bless you, your family, and your life.